Hi folks, it's June 1st. The days are getting very long and very hot. Everything is green, but we need water, and we're not supposed to pray for rain right now. But I'm told we're going to get thunder showers this weekend. It's the Parsha Behaalotcha, a very confusing Shabbos for me because there are so many positives, but really in the end there's some major negatives. Let's do a quick review. This is a Parsha that has in it the upside down nuns, almost like a parenthesis built into the Torah. It talks about when the ark will move, this is what will happen. And many people consider this actually a division of one of the books of Torah, Bamidbar, into three: the ones that come before the upside down nuns, the section in the upside down nuns, and then the one after it. On top of it, the themes seem to be radically separated by these upside down nuns, which occur nowhere else in the Torah. We're actually about to begin a unfortunate slide. We know that Moshe, as a leader of the Jewish people, has not had an easy ride. It's hard to tell whether Pharaoh was tougher on Moshe or the Jewish people themselves. They're constantly complaining, and here we see the real beginning of the problem. At the beginning of the Parsha, the Levites are selected. The Kohanim are told how to manage the Menorah, to clean it, to light it. The nature of the Menorah is a single base with a post spreading out into 7 arms, and then the lamps all point to the center. This is an indication, which is historic to the Jewish people, that agreement does not come that easily. Even though we start with a single foundation, belief in God as one, the belief that Abraham transmitted to the world. We see that the tribes are 12 and have many different opinions. We see historically there are many arguments among the sages, but we understand that a machloket for the sake of God is one that in the end points back to the center and is not divisive, but a search for truth. Shammai and Hillel, the great houses of Torah learning, were described, even though they had directly opposite opinions, both to be speaking in the name of the living God. And consequently, their opinions were both valid, although their timings might have been different. As we move forward, we see what are described as the complainers in this Parsha. They complain that even though they have man to eat, a food that tastes virtually like anything you could imagine, they're unhappy, and what they really want is real meat. Some explain this as a desire for desire. The man, it says, the people who ate manna were the right people to accept Torah, that their appetites were more for Torah than for physical satisfaction. But here we see they're asking for real meat, meaning that man doesn't give us desire, and consequently eating it doesn't satisfy desire. We want something that has a desire. Meat has a desire when it lives, so that we will have real desire and have it satisfied as well. It's as if they don't recognize the gift of the man itself. Then it goes on, it says that Moshe's siblings, Aaron and Miriam, whispered against him, complained against him, said, God spoke to us as well. They are concerned that he doesn't pay the right attention to his Cushite wife, is described. Many people consider this to be Zipporah, the wife we know, although it's strange because she is, after all, the daughter of Jethro, who was Midianite, not a Cushite. But some of the sages say the gematria of Cushite means beautiful, and that's what they were saying about Zipporah. Others say that during the 60 years between the time he left Egypt and the time he married Zipporah, he was in the land of Cush, and perhaps even became the king of Cush, marrying the queen of Cush. It's a long medrash I won't get into. But this is a downward path that will end up with the rebellion of Korach, a tragic event in the Jewish history. So what do we learn from all this? And there's much more. There's the Levites, the ordination of the Levites, the waving of the Levites, and given their position as assistants to the Kohanim in temple service. What are we finding out from all this information? Well, sometimes when we're searching for what the portion is really about, we look towards the Haftorah that the sages connected to the Parsha itself. And interestingly, the Parsha begins with descriptions of the Menorah, that's in the Mishkan, and the Haftorah from Zechariah is one that also focuses very much on a future menorah. In this Parsha, in this Haftorah, the discussion is about the returnees from Babylon to Judea, the building of the temple, and the complaints against the leadership that things are not as they should be. They're not perfect, and that they will be tried with a defending angel and an accusing angel, the Satan, before the high court, the highest court. The end of the story is very hopeful, and in it the prophet describes a menorah of the future that will be fed automatically by tubes coming from olive trees into bowls that feed into the menorah itself. I think that what we understand from this is that even when things are very dark, there is a plan in place, and it revolves around the light of Torah as disseminated by the Jewish people. Here we are now at that moment. Over the last week and a half, Israel, both in the north from Syria and Iran, and in the south from Hamas, has been under fire virtually every day. And it certainly did not look good for us. But curiously, when I was in shul 2-3 days ago, one of my fellow shulmates said to me, you know, sometimes Israelis don't appreciate the great miracles of 1947, 48, 1967. They just don't realize the protection we have. And I looked at him and I said, it's much more recent than that. How about last week, 2 days ago? He looked at me curiously. I said, Iran fired 32 missiles at us, less than an hour's drive from where he and I were standing. And what happened? Well, Israel's technology, the Iron Dome, shot down 4 of them. What about the other 28? Well, it seems that they didn't actually leave Gaza or enter Israeli airspace. It's a little unclear. So it could be that Israel has found some way to jam the highest quality guidance systems that the Iranian missiles have. Or it could be that somehow forces beyond our control directed 28 of the 32 missiles aimed at the north of Israel in some other direction. What are the odds of that? I'm not saying the odds of getting through Iron Dome, but what are the odds of firing 32 high-tech, best you got is Iranian missiles. And not only none of them hitting targets, but none of them even getting across Syrian airspace, Syrian borders into Israeli airspace. I think it's pretty small. So we continue to live day in and day out in the eye of God, and His protection is my explanation for it. You may have your own. I think we're sitting here on the edge of the promises made by God to the next Menorah. There's a lot to be done before that happens. I'm not an expert in geopolitics. Certainly, it's not an attractive idea to our neighbors, what I'm suggesting. But it seems like things are moving forward in exactly that direction. It's mysterious. It is the hand of God. With the light of Torah as amplified by the Menorah itself. Wishing you a good Shabbos, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Be well.